Brazil's VBTP Guarani has evolved from a domestic modernization program into a strategic military diplomatic instrument that carries Brazil's defense industry across oceans and into new geopolitical theaters. Its shipment to the armed forces of the Philippines is not merely a commercial deal, but a symbolic export of Brazilian credibility, engineering capacity, and strategic intent. The Guarani represents a new posture. Brazil is not simply a nation that buys defense technologies from others, but one that creates them, fields them, and now supplies them to allied militaries. When Brazil began developing Guarani in cooperation with Iveco defense vehicles, the goal was pragmatic: to replace aging EE-11 Urutu armored vehicles, introduce better crew survivability, and adopt a vehicle suited to Brazil's large and diverse topography. The result was a rugged and adaptable platform, a six-wheeled armored personnel carrier approximately 6.9 meters long, weighing around 16.7 tons, capable of speeds of up to 110 kilometers per hour with a combat range of around 600 kilometers. The vehicle supports multiple configurations, including remote-controlled weapon stations with a 30mm autocannon, thermal and night vision optics, as well as space for a modular add-on armor system that can raise protection standards to meet STANAG Level 4. But where Guarani becomes genuinely strategic is in its modularity. One base platform can be transformed into command variant, reconnaissance unit, mortar carrier, ambulance, or communications hub. This modular philosophy mirrors the Brazilian defense industrial approach: flexibility, scalability, affordability. Instead of designing multiple specialized vehicles, Brazil designed one adaptable chassis. This echoes the philosophy behind Embraer's C390 Millennium, among others. One platform, many missions. Brazil is building not just hardware, but a doctrine of practicality. For Brazil's own forces, Guarani is a force multiplier. It allows highly mobile infantry deployment through urban, jungle, and semi-arid environments. It increases the survivability of soldiers compared to legacy designs. Its digital communication systems and battlefield networking capabilities give Brazil a more connected and coordinated land force. Yet the real leap happened when the Brazilian government realized that Guarani was exportable. For decades, Brazil has been trying to assert an industrial identity beyond commodities. Aerospace helped through Embraer. Now land systems are doing the same. When the Philippines ordered Guarani, it was the first major armored vehicle export of this type from Brazil to Southeast Asia. The initial deliveries confirmed that the vehicle met Philippine Army expectations. The second shipment, now staged at the port of Santos, demonstrates continuity and commitment. It wasn't just a one-off demonstration sale, it became a sustained procurement relationship. Philippine defense observers have discussed scaling total orders to potentially above 100 vehicles. This scale matters. It signifies trust in Brazilian technology. It broadcasts to other nations that Brazil is a credible partner. From a geopolitical perspective, the Philippines is a meaningful customer. Located at the strategic fault line of the South China Sea tensions, Manila is actively diversifying its defense supply channels. Traditionally reliant on the United States, then engaging South Korea for aircraft and frigates, the Philippines now adds Brazil to its network. This diversification benefits both sides. The Philippines gains equipment and additional diplomatic leverage. Brazil gains presence in a critical security domain. Instead of playing only in Latin America and Africa, Brazil now enters Asia's unstable and highly contested defense market. For Brazilian society and statecraft, Guarani thus serves two parallel missions. At home, it strengthens localized manufacturing, provides jobs, and expands the skilled industrial base. Abroad, it helps Brazil communicate strength, reliability, and cooperative engagement. In the 21st century, nations don't gain influence purely through traditional diplomacy. Influence follows trade, technology transfer, and interoperability exercises. When a Brazilian armored vehicle transports Filipino soldiers in Mindanao or patrols contested terrain, the flag of Brazil effectively becomes part of that patrol. Of course, Guarani is not a perfect machine, and this argument requires balance. Compared to tracked infantry fighting vehicles, Guarani cannot offer the same level of armor resilience or anti-armor firepower. Against heavy mechanized forces, Guarani must be part of a combined arms grid, not a standalone spearhead. But in asymmetric warfare, peacekeeping, border security, counter-terror operations, and internal stabilization tasks, its speed, adaptability, and affordability are precisely what many nations need. The Philippines, facing guerrilla insurgencies and maritime anxiety rather than tank-on-tank warfare, finds Guarani appropriate to its operational profile. This raises a larger question for Brazil's strategic trajectory. Is Guarani the beginning of a broader global export strategy? The answer is leaning toward yes. Brazil may pursue additional exports to Indonesia, Malaysia, Colombia, and even African states with growing modernization ambitions. If Guarani continues to perform well in service abroad and achieves demonstrated reliability, Brazil could become a net supplier of armored vehicles in much the same way it already leads in regional aerospace markets. This would shape perceptions of Brazil as a rising industrial military power rather than simply a continental one. Inside Brazil, the defense community understands the symbolism. The Guarani moving out of Santos Harbor is not mere cargo, it is a statement. Brazil is stepping into a role as an emerging arms supplier for developing militaries facing practical and budget-constrained scenarios. Brazilian-style engineering emphasizes good enough protection, strong mobility, sensible cost, local maintainability, and ease of training. That philosophy aligns with the realities of many militaries around the world. Looking toward 2030 and beyond, one can envision scenarios in which Guarani becomes part of multinational exercises, appears in United Nations deployments, and appears in joint doctrine studies with new procurement partners across multiple continents. If this trajectory strengthens, Guarani could become one of the most iconic military inventions of modern Brazilian industry, just as the Super Tucano and C-390 have done for aviation. Ultimately, the Guarani story is part of a larger narrative. Brazil is rising, not through loud confrontation, but through competence, credibility, and industrial momentum. The world is beginning to recognize Brazilian defense products as serious, reliable, and strategically useful. That recognition carries long-term consequences: industrial investment, global respect, geopolitical leverage. This is how a nation gradually transitions from importer to peer supplier. For viewers in Brazil, understanding Guarani is not just about technical curiosity. It is about recognizing Brazil's emerging role as a nation shaping global military capabilities. Watching Guarani roll off Brazilian soil and into active deployment abroad is watching Brazil's influence expand in real time.